Stephon Diggs is now out for the season with an ACL tear. Wide receivers just certainly hurting big time, big time.
I do wonder how much these injuries have to do with the lack of practice time that these guys have each week, like real practice, and how much that they play in the preseason. Again, data will eventually kind of give us that answer over time because it's been a small sample size. But if you remember in the last players negotiation, that was really when they added the extra game, they really took away a lot of the time that they can, wear pads and stuff and actually really practice football in practice. And obviously now these guys don't really play in preseason games. And it just to me seems a little coincidental, right, that all of these guys are seeming to get injured. And I just, I wonder if your body has to get used to that grind, right, in order to be able to take such a physical sport like football is. What was weird with the Diggs play is he didn't even look like he was that injured, and now he's done for the year. And this is a Texans team that I know everybody was in love with. And, I still think they're fine when they get Nico Collins back. I think that's been the real issue for C.J. Stroud. He's looked like a completely different QB when Collins has been on the field and when he hasn't. But it's definitely the latest team to have one of the biggest additions or biggest players on their team get injured and already be done for the year. We still got more than, right at half the season to go.
Yep, no doubt. None of these guys are making it to that additional game. And I haven't looked at all these, especially the knee injuries, but just another, turf non-contact football injury. And, that's one of the things the players, there's a whole coalition about getting rid of artificial turf because it's just not grass. It doesn't give. It pops these ligaments that are already getting so much stress put on them. And that's why you've had a few stadiums do grass that can slide in and out or have roofs that open up so you can get that sunlight in there so the photosynthesis process can certainly go down. Some breaking news David just sent me in regards to what I asked you, Keith, with the MLB. The MLB has asked the Yankees to ban the two fans who interfered in Game 4 from tonight's game. They will be refunded for their tickets per a source. So good to see the Major League Baseball kind of coming to the backs, I guess you could say, of the players by making what should have been the decision already made by the Yankees. But just wanted to get that one in there real quick as we were talking about it.
Imagine if it would have been the other way around, say in Game 2, right? Yeah. And then that Dodgers player came to Yankee Stadium. This is why I both love, like these fans from the Northeast and also they're giant hypocrites, is like they would be throwing batteries at that guy, right? Like if they did it in Los Angeles to a Yankees player and then they came to New York, but again, they're rooting for him, and he's like a hero in the Yankee world. I'm just fascinated to see, did they say you have to, disinvite them or kick them out of the game tonight, or did they say we really strongly suggest you do, and then we'll see how much power, Major League Baseball's brass, if you will, has over, maybe the most powerful organization in baseball.
Yeah, it said they have asked the Yankees. It didn't say they told the Yankees. They've asked the Yankees to, and that's probably the polite way to do it first, and then if you don't, then boom, now you have to. But because I think right. Major League Baseball certainly needs to make that stand. All right, let's dive into what you came here to talk about, and we're going to start with some draft pick selections over the past 10 years or so, and you kind of did a deep dive into the positions and how they're doing and all those things.
Yeah, I have severe OCD, ADD, ADHD, all that stuff. So
all the Ds.
When I get on a D, when I could focus on something, that's a good thing. What got me going on this path was two things this week. One is just the Richardson news, like Bryce Young played last week. He's being benched again, like just all these QBs, the revolving door. The other is my Atlanta Falcons, so I'm just sick and tired of people defending the selections that we made the last 4 years, and then those same people be like, we need to go out and get a pass rusher. And it's like, well, when you pass up Jalen Carter for a running back and then take a backup QB over any defender in the class, like this is what happens. You don't have any pass rush because you've spent 4 straight top 8 picks not on them. But so I went and looked at the last 10 drafts and just the top 10. No surprise. QBs, number one, 26 of them taken in the last 10 years, just in the top 10 picks. 13 have been top 8 just since 2020. Then you have, again, makes sense, the defensive end, defensive tackles. They've had 18 taken in the last 10 years. 7 top 8 players just since 2020. Offensive tackle, offensive guard, offensive lineman, basically 16 of them. 7 top 8 since 2020. What's kind of crazy is there's been a little bit of a shift. So the last 5 drafts were dominated by QBs, wide receivers, offensive linemen, and defensive linemen. That's 78% of the top 10 picks. If you go back to the previous 5 years, it's pretty different. I mean, you got, again, it's 66% of those players, but where was the difference? You had 4 more running backs selected from 2015 to 2019, 6 more linebackers from 2015 to 2019, and 7 more DBs. Less DBs actually in that case. So what you're seeing is more emphasis on like the defensive backs right now, and obviously a lot less on running backs, linebackers, et cetera. Like, for instance, the Falcons taking Bijan. That is the only running back taken in the top 10 since 2018.
Whew.
Again, my Falcons selection of Kyle Pitts, it's the only tight end selected in the top 10 since 2019. And again, people wonder why we don't have a pass rush.
So you're saying there's a trend.
There's a trend here. And, I mean, it just shows, though, that teams are learning that the most valuable positions are obviously QBs, the offensive and defensive line, which I know we've talked about a million times on the show. That's still where games are won. If you look at really elite squads, they're very good usually up front on both sides of the ball. And then it would make sense, right, with a big uptick in DBs with more wide receivers coming in, right? Like, wide receivers are having more of an impact immediately, meaning they're being selected earlier. It's also somewhere you can save money, right, like getting a Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson on a rookie contract, because we see what the wide receivers are making now. Same thing for offensive defensive linemen. Same thing for QBs. It's kind of why you don't take a running back, tight end, et cetera, that early. If you really want an elite tight end running back, just pay the person. Same thing for linebacker, right? Like, just pay them after you know how good they are.
Let them get in the league for a little bit. Let them get good.
Exactly.
Let them get established, and then pay them. Yeah, something to be said for that.
Exactly.
I'm sure.
So, but the QBs, and let's eliminate 2024. It's too early, even though it looks like there's a few good QBs in this class. But going back from 2023 through 2015, there has been 21 QBs taken in the top 10. It's a lot worse than you think. Like, Bryce Young, 2-17 as the starter. He's been benched. C.J. Stroud, 16-9. Started great. Little bit of a sophomore slump, right? Like, not quite so confident this guy's the next stud. Anthony Richardson, 5-5. He's been benched. Trevor Lawrence from 2021, 23-37 starter, but it hasn't been what we expected, right? Zach Wilson, 12-21. He's been benched and traded. Trey Lance, 2-2. He's been traded. He's just a backup. The 2020 class is by far the best one. Burrow, Tua, and Herbert, all of those guys, like Burrow and Tua both have actually winning records. Herbert is right there, 34-36. The 2019 class, again, Kyler Murray, 32-41. He's a starter, but you don't feel great with him as your QB. Daniel Jones is 25-43. This is probably his last year.
Yeah, I think the experiment's over in New York.
Right? Absolutely. So, but then 2018, again, an example of just like Josh Allen was great. We know that 74-37. Josh Rosen was an absolute bust, 4-20. He's out of the league. But there's that Baker and Darnold, right? Like, we're two guys who Baker's 6 games under 500, Darnold's 11, but they've kind of proven, giving the right opportunity and the right environment after years of learning, they're okay quarterbacks. And then going back any further than that, you got like Winston and Mariota in 2015. I know Winston is technically the starter now, but I don't think either one of those are going to be starters for a significant period moving forward. Carson Wentz is a backup from 2016. Jared Goff's been really good, but again, not with his first team that he was drafted with. And then 2017, I have to always bring this up, Trubisky and Mahomes, the two QBs taken top 10. Trubisky actually has a winning record of 31-28. He's one of like 8 guys out of this list that has a winning record. Obviously, Mahomes is great. But if you went through that list, you tell me any QBs that I'm missing that are you feel great about them as your starting quarterback right now.
That we're taking
C.J.
early.
Stroud.
Yeah.
Yeah, C.J. Stroud. Maybe? Like, you think you feel great? Okay.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow for sure, right?
I guess. What's the deal with Joe Burrow? Me and David were talking about this one. Like,
I don't know if it's such a for sure thing anymore.
That's why I said I guess. He continues to live in that elite tier of quarterbacks with Patrick Mahomes. If I look at you, because he beat Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship once and then lost in the Super Bowl, I don't know. I don't know about Joe Burrow anymore. He's got talent. Now, obviously, they always say, well, they didn't give him an offensive line. He's been hurt a million times. Well, yeah. But why do we keep giving Joe Burrow a pass? I don't get the Joe Burrow thing.
I mean, he's only been in the league, though, 5 years, and he's been to 2 AFC titles and a Super Bowl. So, to me, that shows when things are right. Anyway, so, I get what you're saying, though.
Yeah.
So, what about Herbert?
I think he's had
I'm in on him.
Oh, David's in on. Oh,
I am
J.
too.
Herb.
He ain't got nothing over there.
I love the Ducks. All the four. Bo Nix, Justin Herbert, Marcus Mariota. The Ducks fly together.
I think by far the worst situation of any of these QBs that's had a lot of a pretty good amount of success is Justin Herbert. Like, he's been able to float despite trash coaching, not very good weapons around him. Like, they've been older, and I'm with David there. Josh Allen for sure, right? And Patrick Mahomes. Those are the two absolute definites.
Yep.
What about Jared Goff?
I'm out on Patrick Mahomes. I don't know about you guys.
That guy's
I'm just joking.
His best years are behind him. He's like Jay with Scotty Scheffler. I think he's done all of his winning. He's done.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, Jared Goff, I think, doesn't get the respect that he deserves. All he does is continue to play consistent football, and even when
76 and 55 as a starter, pretty impressive.
No doubt. Another quarterback from Cal that didn't go to the dark side. So, hey, I don't know.
All right, so we said for sure Stroud, Herbert.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, the list is getting small. This is kind of my point. You're talking about really who we feel really good about right now going forward, Allen, Mahomes, and Goff. That is 3 out of 21. I know that there's development issues and everything else.
Yeah.
But is the league also just making a mistake constantly taking these guys in the top 10 when it shows that, again, why not let somebody else draft them in the top 10 like a Baker or a Darnold, and then you scoop them up once they throw them away because they get impatient. We're seeing this with Richardson and Bryce and all these guys, and try to develop them that way, and you just continue to make your team much better by taking defensive linemen, offensive linemen, wide receiver positions that have had a lot higher hit rate. Same thing for DBs, like the DBs going back, taking in the top 10. There's been some busts, something wrong, but overall, these are really good players.
Yeah.
Are they just making the mistake of overvaluing QBs in the draft? Because I understand you want to get a Mahomes. Mahomes wasn't even taken, but 10th. Like, he was very borderline on actually being that. Josh Allen, again, taking 10th. These guys are just on the outside of the top 10, and yet we're seeing 3 or 4 QBs now go in the top 8 every year, it seems like.
Yeah, it's like this trend that they got stuck in. And, we were talking about it earlier in the show. I mean, the successful quarterbacks now Josh Allen's an anomaly. He didn't sit behind anybody, but Josh Allen's also a physical monster.
And it was really rough those first 2 years.
His first year, he had like a 55% completion rating and all that stuff. But, yeah, I mean, you get – and a lot of these teams don't have the luxury. But I like what you're saying is, you bolster – because you win NFL. If you have a serviceable quarterback and really good lines, that's how you can win football games. And then the Patrick Mahomes of the world, they don't come around that often, to all your points that you're saying. But yeah, I think it's like a farce that the NFL has, that these quarterbacks were fantastic in college. We got to take them early if we got an early pick, but yet our team isn't that great, and that's why we have an early pick, and then we throw these kids in and they're just not ready to play at a high level in the NFL without the protection around them. And I like what you're saying. Let some of the other, of these other teams that are kind of behind the scenes, let the crappier teams take these quarterbacks. They get some reps. Hopefully it doesn't ruin their career like some of them have obviously happened. And then you pick them up a little bit later on, 25, 26, 27 years old, and they're ready to play high-level football.
Yeah, because I think Baker is playing at as high of a level as any QB in the NFL, especially, again, Falcons have no pass rush and that helps. So, just seeing in the last 2 weeks, even losing like Evans and Godwin, he seems to have really figured it out. Like, he doesn't turn it over a lot. He actually throws for a lot of yards. He seems to, if he needs to check down, he will, but he's also not afraid to take shots.
Yep.
And this is a guy people remember had left for dead after the Cleveland experience.
That's kind of what happens when you go up there to Cleveland. Things. So he's kind of like the anomaly. He survived the Cleveland experience, where a lot of people did not survive that experience, and I think we're looking